theater, a character feast. You play the beauty, I'll play the beast. A role like Jean Valjean just screams for my rendition. And as a diva, it's the only choice, alas, because the women are all dead by intermission. And as a French guy, I kick ass. So, Javert, you see it's true. This man bears no more guilt than you. Who am I? 2, 4, 6, 0, 1.
She's an acclaimed musical theater icon, but more importantly, a down-home Texas girl. Lucky for New York, she's back in town performing at Feinstein's at the Loews Regency in a terrific new show of Broadway standards. Please welcome to the show, Miss Betty Lynn Buckley.
Hi, Paul.
Hi.
It's great to see you.
I am so thrilled to see you.
I'm so happy to see you. One of the funnest days of my whole life was when you and I hung out in Central Park during those Sunset Boulevard days. And
we did. We spent a whole day together.
We had the best day. It was amazing.
And I actually, that is what this is. This is back in the day, 15 years ago, I started a theater magazine.
Don't say how long ago it
was.
Okay,
a few years back, I started a theater magazine, and you were so gracious to be the first person on my cover.
I wasn't gracious. I was really thrilled to do it.
Well,
Thank you.
I was thrilled to have you, and we took some beautiful photographs of you.
Thank you.
In your apartment and in Central Park.
That photographer was great.
Deborah Lopez.
Yeah.
And
but show him that one where we were playing piggyback. That's the best one.
This photo is probably one of my all-time
Isn't that the best?
favorite photos ever.
I bonded with you forever on that day. I've loved you ever since. That was the best.
Well, I appreciate that. And then I got to go backstage with you and watch Sunset Boulevard from behind the scenes with your
crazy,
dogs, with your
wasn't it?
3 little adorable dogs.
Yeah.
And what an incredible, first of all, I have to tell you, I also went to your first performance in New York of Sunset Boulevard, and that is literally one of the 5 best nights I've ever spent in a theater.
It's one of the 5 best nights I've ever spent in the theater, too.
It was amazing.
That was amazing, yeah.
That's one of the best performances I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thanks. I've never felt so loved and received by an audience. My opening night in London was like that, and then the first night in New York, and then opening night in New York, and then the Carnegie Hall concert that we did later.
Yeah.
Those are the most memorable nights of my life ever. You know, it was amazing. It was
And
a
I
great
think you
experience.
had a pretty wonderful night last night.
Oh, last
because
night was great. We had so much fun.
I got to see your new show, which is called Amen. How would you say it? Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
The Boys of Broadway.
The Boys of Broadway.
Yeah.
And you are doing a whole night of musical theater songs written for men.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because they get a lot of good stuff.
They get the stuff. They get the great stuff. You know, these really beautiful pieces of music that I've always loved. So I thought of it some time ago, and it's funny because John Iachetti, who's the entertainment director at Feinstein's, has been so good to me because I moved back to Texas, as you know, 7.5 years ago, and he's been so loyal and such a beautiful, dear friend and patron of mine by bringing me back to Feinstein's every year for an extended engagement. So, number one, it's just, it's a chance to work on all new music and create a new collection of songs that I love. And it takes months to do that, by the way. It just takes a really long time to put together an evening like that. But and then I get a whole month in New York just to come and play. And that room is so intimate and so much fun. And well, not all my friends, but most of my friends, my good friends, my real friends, come see me at the show. And I feel like I'm throwing my own little party,
Right.
7 times a week there, and get to see all old friends and reconnect.
And you get a paid New York vacation.
A paid New York vacation.
Which is
fantastic.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were talking last night in the show about how much you love just walking around the city. And do you miss New York?
Oh, I do. But when I first moved back to Texas, I was like bereft. And then I love my ranch, and I love my life there and my animals. I have like 17 animals, horses, cats, dogs, and a donkey. And it's a really beautiful place. And I travel, and then I come back, and I have that serenity. But after I got over the initial feeling of being bereft of New York, then when I come back now, eat it up. You know, there's this sense of, oh, let's go to all this, my favorite restaurants. And
Right.
yesterday I was walking down Madison Avenue window shopping, and I saw all these New Yorkers walking, and I remembered how I love how New Yorkers dress, you know, because in the Southwest we don't dress as cool as New Yorkers. And, you know, I tweeted about it. I was like, you know, it's survivor chic. I mean, it's like, you know, street survivor chic. Is how New Yorkers dress, because we have to be ready for everything and have what we need, and you know, your walking shoes and all that. So.
There were so many beautiful moments in your show last night.
Thank you, Paul.
I mean, I said I literally felt like it was like I saw 3 brilliant Broadway musicals by the time it was over, because there were so many moments, one after the next. And you've done a lot of cabaret engagements over the years, but this time you're kind of really giving people what they want to hear. You're giving them Broadway songs.
You know, I used to be, as you know, into these like really esoteric collections of music, you know, singer-songwriter music and everything.
Yeah.
And I had this jazz ensemble that I was really proud of these guys to, you know, that they wanted to work with me. And I had this feeling of this need to, you know, do something really special and artistic and da-da-da-da. And then when I was at Feinstein's, they started getting letters. You know, you tell Betty Buckley if she doesn't sing Broadway, you know, we won't come back. And, you know, they'd pass these letters on to me, and I'd be like, you know, really annoyed. And when I first
I'm an artist.
No, exactly. You know, I was really ardent about that too. And so, you know, and everywhere I would go, you know, people would like, oh, it's so esoteric, or it's rock, or it's like, what is it? You know, what is it? She's a Broadway singer. And I'm like, I'm just a singer, you know. It used to really annoy me, but you know, I got over that. And so, but it's actually in my contract that it needs to be something from Broadway, which I think is really funny. I'm probably the only singer in all of show business that they actually can, you know, they say that about, but whatever.
So they say, we'll hire her, but she has to sing.
But you have to sing Broadway.
You don't have to sing Memory.
And Broadway needs to be in the title. And so
that's funny.
Coming up with new titles that include Broadway, you know, is not the easiest thing either. But it's okay now. You know, you know, one thing that's cool about getting older, Paul, is that you just start to let go. Whatever,
Right.
you know, you just like get over all your egotistical, silly, young, ardent, striving self thing, you know, and trying to prove anything. It's just like, whatever.
A big highlight is you do a trio of songs from Sweeney Todd. You sing Not While I'm Around, and then you sing Joanna, and then you sing
My Friends.
My Friends, right. Sweeney's big dramatic
That's my
song.
favorite.
So now I'm completely convinced that you have to play Sweeney Todd.
Thank you.
I mean, it was incredible.
Thank you. I'd love to do that.
We got to do Sweeney Todd. I mean, why not? You say it in the
you
show.
know, why
Well, why
didn't you
not?
become a producer? I mean, you were a publisher, and now you're a TV host and personality. And like, as a sideline, why don't you just produce?
Well,
a
it's
show?
funny you mentioned that, because last week Andrea McArdle sat in that chair, and her dream role is to do Mrs. Lovett. So
That would be awesome.
maybe we got it.
That's
we got it. Betty Buckley
great.
and Andrea McArdle in Sweeney Todd.
I love that. I have to say, I think that's the most beautiful music he's ever written.
Yeah.
I mean, there were just passages in that score that I'm like, oh my God, that's so gorgeous. And My Friends has some of that music in it, I think. It's just, and his writing is so succinct, and I love Stephen Sondheim. I just love him. I love him with all my heart.
You also have this very funny song called A Hymn to Her.
Yes, it's based on the Henry Higgins thing from
Right.
Fair
Why
Lady.
can't a woman be more like a man?
Yes.
And so this is sort of a specialty song for you. And who helped you put it together?
Eric, the great, funny, brilliant writer, Eric Kornfeld wrote it, and with Eric Stern, who adapted it musically. And so they did it all on their own without any help from me at all, and just sent it to me. And I was like, when I first got it, I was completely overwhelmed. I thought, no way, I can't learn this. This is ridiculous, you know. It's really one of the hardest things I've ever tried to do.
Well, it's a song that's sort of about your career, and then you also sing snippets. Like I got to finally see Betty Buckley's Billy Bigelow. I never thought that would happen.
I never thought that would happen either. I was like, and The Music Man's my favorite.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Now I know all you folks are the right kind of parents.
I think the show is worth seeing just for that song alone. It's really,
Thank you.
really
People,
clever.
I had no idea how it. I think Eric Kornfeld is a really funny guy, but some of his jokes and stuff, I'm not always up on how to. It's not particularly how I approach things, you know.
Right.
And so he really coached me in this
Right.
stuff, and So at the sound check, I did it, and the crew that was there were just dying laughing. I was like, "Oh my God, it's working! This is
works,
great!"
yeah.
And then I was like, "Well, I hope it's not just because they're a bunch of zany, crazy people." And then, so then the audience last night, as soon as I said the first joke and him to her, people just fell out, and I was like, "Okay, we're on."
Well, one of the lyrics you say something about there are two great female parts. I played them both.
Yeah, it said they do write strong women. I played them both.
So who is that? Is that Norma Desmond and Mama Rose?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, just making sure.
No,
I didn't know if Chrisabella fit in.
Let's face it, there are at least 5 or 6. It's not just 2. I haven't played them all by any means, but that's a funny line.
So I want to ask you, I want to ask you about your life in Texas. You were obviously from Texas, and as you said, you moved back there.
Mm-hmm.
What made you make that decision? Did you always have in the back of your mind that you would do that?
No. In fact, I never wanted to live in Texas after I left because I wanted to get out of their way before I did leave. I have to say, you grow up as a Texan with a certain pride in being a Texan. Yeah. It's like ours was the biggest state, until Alaska, and then ours is, it's just there's this whole cowboy heritage, and Texas women were kind of brash and outspoken, and most Texas women there's a larger than life quality and stuff. And I was a cowgirl, and my grandfather Norman C. Buckley was called Kid Buckley, and he was a real cowboy in the Old West. And my grandmother, Myrtle Buckley, was the cook on the, when they did the trail drives of taking the cattle to market. She was in the covered wagon as the cook, if you can imagine. And so, anyway, this whole Western cowgirl heritage thing and being a Texan, that's really cool. But Texas is really hot in the summertime, and it's engulfing, suffocating heat. So I didn't want to live there especially, but I always knew I wanted to have horses. And so when I left Texas, I had this horse that I'd had since I was 15, and I told him I would come back. I was going to go be successful in show business, and that I would get a ranch as soon as I could, and I'd come back and get him.
Doesn't that happen in Gypsy? Doesn't Baby June say something
she wants
to the
go
cow?
back to
the cow.
Yeah,
she says, I'm going to go to
right.
Broadway.
So I never did that, and I just got busy, and I just never did that. And I went back to visit my horse a couple of times, and I finally, the last time I visited him, he was 33 years old. And I said, his name was Black Bucket. And I said, Bucket, I'm really sorry I didn't get the ranch. I've just been busy, and I apologize. And, I always sent money for his care, and they loaned him to other young girls that were learning to ride, and he was a really great horse. And then 3 days after my last visit, I said, if you need to go, buddy, I understand, because I'm sorry I didn't, fulfill the promise.
Wow.
And he laid down 3 days later and died. And I thought, and I was so sad about that. I always had a lot of grief about that. I felt like I had betrayed him on a deeper level, and he was my soul companion kind of thing. So after 9/11, we were in New York during 9/11, and I just, in the months following, I just became overwhelmed with the need to have a horse again, and I thought, why have I waited? This is ridiculous. All of us that were here, I became so, I feel, so aware of how precious our lives are, and how abundant, and how, we got to just appreciate every moment, because you just never know, what's around the corner. And so Kathy was coming to work every day after that, in the days following 9/11, and I was on the phone every day trying to find a cutting horse, and calling all the top trainers in the sport. And she thought I'd gone crazy. She thought, what is going on here? And then I got like this.
What is a cutting horse?
It's a sport in the tradition of the Old West where this horse and rider separate one cow from a herd of cows.
Okay.
And it's evolved into this 2.5 minute sport, where in the 2.5 minutes you can cut one at a time, 2 to 3 cows, and the horse has to do all the work to keep the cow from running back into the herd after you separate the cow from her, because cows like to stay together.
So you're on the phone looking for a cutting horse.
And so I connected with one of the top, he was literally at that point the top trainer in the sport. And this was 8 years ago. Yeah. And so he took me on as a student, even though I was turning 55, which was like, kind of crazy. And I thought, well, maybe I'm too old. I should have not waited so long. And he said, no, you can do this, And so I started doing this, and he helped me find this fantastic horse named Purple Badger, who changed my life. So he was like my first cutting horse, my best friend, my soulmate, my teacher. And I had this epiphany one night coming home from teaching in New York. I was like, I need to live where my horse lives. I need to live where my horse lives. And so, because I was commuting to Texas to learn to do this sport and everything. So the next day I put my apartment on the market, and fortunately I had this really nice co-op on the Upper West Side that had gone up in value, obviously, since I bought it. And in the meantime, I found this sweet little ranch that that I could actually afford, whereas the same kind of property around New York City I would never have been able to afford. So I sold the apartment. That worked out, got the ranch, and it just one thing led to the other. And I thought, am I crazy? But because intellectually, I thought I don't want to ever live in Texas, but my heart just kept saying, you need to do this. And so I did it, and it's been really fun, really fun.
How do you think you've changed since you left New York as a person?
I don't know. I've never really thought about that. I think I'm not so, well, but I'm not sure it's about leaving New York as much as it's just about, the age, getting older.
Right.
I just don't feel like I really want to do my work, and I really love my work, and
right.
I don't, I love it more than anything. Well, I guess horses and my work are comparable, but I think I'm just more easygoing about things, more relaxed, and maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. It's okay, whatever. It's going to be okay, and I don't feel like I need to prove anything anymore to anybody.
Right.
When I lived here and I was a young actor, singer, I felt like, you always feel that pressure to prove things. You got to prove it, and there's a lot of that kind of pressure. And one of the beautiful things I think about getting older is you can start to let go of some of that and just relax. It's like they'll either like it or they won't like it, and there's nothing you really can do about it, and you can just do your best and show up and keep doing your best, and that's it. So I guess I've changed a good deal in that way.
What do you think, if I visited you on your ranch in Texas, what do you think would surprise me about your life there? Like, what is your life like? A day in the life of Betty Buckley on the ranch when you're done with your show?
Well, you're welcome to come if you want. Sometime, some weekend, come check it out, and I'll give you riding lessons. Do you know how to ride?
No.
Well, I'll put you on a horse and give you. I'm a pretty decent riding teacher, actually.
Wow.
So there's that, that part of my life that maybe you'd be the most surprised about is, my love for animals and, my connection with them. That's what I really realized why I needed to move, because, so much about show business is about perception and what people say about you. And then your responses to that. And I woke up one day in New York and I was like, I realized that the majority of my responses on a daily basis were to other people's projections and had very little to do with me at all. And that really concerned me. I thought, well, this isn't right. And because it was all in the aftermath of Sunset Boulevard and everybody's projections about. There's a lot of projections in our business in the concept of diva, right? So any strong woman with any kind of degree of any bright, strong woman who has opinions and is artistic at all and independent at all, in our culture, they're threatening to people, and I've had to learn that through the years. And it's not that we, as women who are independent and strong or artistic or creative people are threatening. It's that people have this kind of notion about it in our particular culture, which is very odd and very hard to deal with. It's kind of walking through a maze of landmines sometimes, and you have to remember they're there. And I don't like it. I've never liked it, and I've never been comfortable with it. And I don't like having to respond to projections and gossip, and there's a lot of gossip that's just completely false. It has nothing to do with who you know yourself to be. It's one of the most discomforting aspects of being in show business. With a horse, you're just yourself. And if you're not yourself, they don't want to work, they won't respond well to you. You must be absolutely true for a horse to respond well to you, because they're always present, completely present. It's so, there's that purity to it. And so when I have that, it feels really, it's very comforting. And then I can wade through the landmines of the projection and gossip and other, what people say mindlessly without fact, you know, and it's a lot better, makes me a lot happier, you know.
Well, I'm glad that you're not just staying on the ranch. I'm glad that you're still.
I'm glad I have opportunities to leave.
Absolutely. And the opportunity that you're doing right now is a great one.
Thank you.
And would you consider maybe recording the show?
I would love to.
It would make a,
I've got a couple of
CD.
people that I've called to ask them if they'd come hear it, because I think it would be a really nice recording.
It'd be a wonderful CD.
Thank you.
Well, I wish we had more time to talk, but we don't.
Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure.
I'm so thrilled that you came in and we got to reconnect.
Yeah.
And you can all catch Betty Buckley through October 29th at Feinstein's at Loews Regency. And we're going to leave you with another clip from Betty's show. And go check it out live after you watch the clip. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
You there, my friend, come, let me hold you. Now, with a sigh, you grow warm in my hand, my friend, my clever friend. Rest now, my friends, soon I'll unfold you, soon you'll know splendors you never have dreamed all your days, my lucky friends, till now your shine was merely silver. Friends, you shall drip rubies, you'll soon drip precious rubies. Rest now, my friends. Rest now, my friends.